What is going on, everyone? It's LFC Transfer Room here. I am joined by Drew and Matty, and it is time for the LFC Transfer Room Awards. Kev is hoping that we're all suited and booted, but I'm sorry, Kev. Drew just got really upset about it and said, he started crying. So me and Matty were like, all right, we'll put jumpers on. It's fine. And we're in scruffs for Drew. It's all for Drew. But today we're going to go through Liverpool LFC Transfer Room Contributors Awards. So this is who we've all voted for certain players of the year. We'll do Liverpool first, then we'll go into the Premier League and generally what we think the Premier League is. Neither Drew or Matty have seen the answers to these, so they're going to be sort of seeing them through. I've got them in front of me. I've also got some outrageous answers to this, which we're going to have a bit of a chat about as well. But let's start. Drew, Liverpool Player of the Year. Did you get your survey in? Have you got all your answers? Do you think you've got them all right?
Yeah, I think so. I played it pretty safe this time around, so I don't think that I embarrassed myself like I have on your wheel of questions that we did a while back. So no surprises for me, but play of the season, anyone who doesn't pick Allison, needs their head examined.
Well, we'll find out very soon. Matty, we were looking at the tier list, me, you and Jack did the other day, about where we thought everyone was going to finish in the Premier League, and we didn't do well, did we? And let's hope we can do better this time.
No, we had a shocker. But to be fair, a lot of the thinking was like, when we done it, Southampton had like Hasenhüttl and stuff, so we expected them to do better. So I could justify a lot of the reasons we put teams where we did, but I hope we have got a better outlook on this one and people agree with us in the comments. That's the main thing, really.
Yeah. So we're going to start off with the first category, which is Liverpool Player of the Season. Guys, who do you think it is in chat? Put down who you think the player of the season is. I can tell you from a LFC Transfer Room perspective, 16 votes went to this player. Drew, who's your player of the season?
It's Allison. I can't see. Did anyone vote for anyone else? That's a travesty if so.
Let me look.
Yeah, put him on blast, James.
Name and shame.
I think this one was pretty unanimous, to be honest.
Because to be fair, if you look at our last game against Southampton, that's without Allison. And look at how much it went to pot. And Kelly was a good keeper as well. And this was against a good side, but just not good enough for the Prem.
Well, I have three names, actually, for Liverpool Player of the Season, looking at the votes. We have Alisson, and Alisson Becker. Three different ways of spelling it, but everyone said the same thing. The LFC Transfer Room Liverpool Player of the Year has gone to Alisson Becker, and I do not think a more psychopathic photograph could be found in all of existence, could it, Matty? I mean, it's scary, the middle one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's mad. And he's been sat there shopping and editing all night, but that's a mad photo. I haven't even seen that.
And just looking at the chat, you had to choose between Alisson and Becker. Helio there. Season's been a mad one. Most people just going Alisson. Ali's class. But you don't want your goalkeeper to be Player of the Year, do you, Drew? It's a shame that that's the case, but he has been a level above.
Yeah, I mean, Manchester United had De Gea their Player of the Season for like year on year, and they didn't win anything. So I hope that's not the case where we can move on. But credit to Alisson, we'd be having an even worse season if he didn't. He's clearly the best goalkeeper in the Premier League, possibly the world. And this season was just a showcase of how good he was because he kept us in with a shout for top four.
And I'm going to keep us moving because we've got a few to go on. We're going to move on to Liverpool's Young Player of the Season. Now, there's a couple of names in the hat for me, Drew. I was thinking, obviously, Stefan. You've got Curtis. You might pick one of the guys that's been out on loan. I think Sepp Vandenberg's done really well at Preston. Who are the names that stick out for you for Young Player of the Year? And again, put it in the chat. Give us your Young Player of the Season. We want to hear from you, and we'll put it up on stream.
think it's hard to look past Bajcetic and Curtis Jones. I think Curtis Jones came on in the last like 9-10 games and brilliantly, you know, proved a lot of people wrong and showed what he has to offer for the Liverpool squad. I think Harvey Elliott kind of isn't it like should be in that conversation, but I almost feel like he was expected to be a part of this team throughout the season, and he kind of fell off, or at least Klopp wasn't picking him towards the end of the season. So I think for me, it's got to be Curtis Jones. Like he came out and at the end of the season showed everyone that he has a role to play in this club, and for me, that's why he takes it because I didn't expect it, and he came in and he cemented himself in that final run.
Now, interestingly, you mentioned Harvey Elliott. He does have just a single vote. I don't think he's had a bad season by any means, but I don't think it's necessarily been his best. But Liverpool's young player of the season, voted for by LFC Transfer Room contributors and pretty much by the chat as well. Stefan Bajcetic, he's the winner in that. It's a real shame, Matty, isn't it, that he got injured towards the end of the season when we tried this new formation. It had been really good to see him function, next to Trent, really.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. I've been blessed enough to see him in the academy from when we signed him. When I do some articles now for the Transfer Room website, and he's was levels above then. You knew he just had something about him, and him coming into this side and training with players like Thiago, who he's probably grew up admiring to be like, given his Spanish links and stuff. It's unbelievable, and he was unfortunate with the injury, really. But I do think he'll be a massive part of our season next year, and that's what disappoints me a bit when everyone is linking us with all defensive midfielders and saying like they want Lavias and stuff like that. Because I genuinely believe next season is when Bajcetic shows he's a £60 million midfielder. He's that good. He was revolutionary in our midfield last year. And Curtis is unfortunate, to be fair. One single vote for Elliott doesn't surprise me, because Curtis, to be fair, outshone him in his 12 performances, had more goal contributions in little less games than Elliott. So I'd say Bajcetic, then Curtis myself, to be fair.
Curtis was second in the vote. I think he got 4 votes. Bajcetic leads the way with 11.
I done Bajcetic myself, like, so it's not just the Curtis Jones show here.
And just look, yeah. We have one solitary vote for Milner for Young Player of the Season. And, many people saying, let's not burn him out. Let's make sure that we've got, a good selection of people. I mean, the next one is Liverpool's best signing. And Matty, I'll stick with you. Who was your signing of the season? Because mine was one where everyone was in outcry that we signed them, which was Cody Gakpo. Everyone's like, well, why have we done that? We need this. No, we shouldn't have signed him. It's rubbish.
Yeah, 100%. He's the only one really in contention. If anyone voted otherwise, then it's a bit mad. Like, Carvalho will be decent, and if we don't loan him out, he'll probably have a buyback. Darwin hasn't lived up to the height that we hoped, but Gakpo's came in and done the Bobby Firmino role fantastically, and he can drop deeper than Bobby ever did because he's faster, which is massive. So he can actually help out in deep lying midfield and still be that false nine. So I expect big things for Gakpo next year. I think he'll probably be one of the top scorers in the league, to be fair. And fair play. Yeah, Arthur, to be fair.
Jen, thank you very much. Always appreciate the super sticker. And with you on the screen, we will say Liverpool's best signing has been Cody Gakpo. There was a solitary vote for Darwin Núñez, and one person voted for nobody.
Who voted for Núñez?
I could dig it out. I'd need to dig it out, but one person did vote for Núñez.
Wow.
Drew, do you think that's fair? Best signing of the only played half a season?
Yeah, that's who I voted for. I think what he had 7 goals and 3 assists in his half season with Liverpool. Came up big what he scored against Everton and Man United in his first half of spell with Liverpool. And quite important goals for at least the Man U game. That's going to live in legend. But I think you and Matty addressed it. Everything he's done to contribute to the team. He's the only one who's really came in and established himself. And like, it's obvious that he has like at least I think he has a starting role with the club moving forward, and I think he's clearly taken over that Bobby role and shown that we can progress past that, because I think that was a huge question mark what we would do once Bobby left. And now that it was confirmed that Bobby is leaving, Cody has come up and instantly, filled in that slot and possibly improved it with his skill set. So obvious winner for me.
Do you know, there's talk of Nunes taking the number 9 right? I think Gakpo should have it myself. That's how highly I rate him.
I completely agree. I think he's more, but when you compare him to Firmino, I don't think he's as clever around the corner as Firmino. But like you say, I think he drives better with the ball from distance. I think he's a better finisher generally. I think he likes to score goals a little bit more than Firmino does. But he just doesn't have the same creativity.
But he's nifty with the ball at his feet. He can receive the ball and turn amazingly.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just take a moment. If you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. Charlie is tweeting out our answers live on Twitter as well. So you're going to get a constant flow of information from us about who our awards are going to. We're going to go on to past who's more positive. LFC flop signing of the season. Again, get it in the chat. Tell us who you think the flop of the season was. Drew, we've had a few names in this. You've got Arthur, we've got Calvin Ramsey, we've got Carvalho, we've got a vote for Darwin Núñez, Naby Keita, even though he wasn't signed this season.
Calvin Ramsey.
Whole midfield is flop of the season. Who are we thinking is... Oh, I know who voted for Núñez as flop of the season, just based on this comment alone.
Who voted for Calvin Ramsey? I want to know that. That's harsh. The boy's been injured.
Calvin Ramsey has 2 votes.
Oh my god.
Oh wow.
That's harsh.
Yeah.
So we've got Carvalho, Arta. All of our transfers from similar flops.
It's got to be Arthur though, doesn't it? Brought him in on loan, the classic last day of the transfer window, and he played 1 game for us, like that sub appearance against Napoli or something in the Champions League, and played absolutely abysmally, and then didn't feature the rest of the season. At least every other player we've mentioned has a potential to, move on and improve. Arthur's just going back to Juventus, just paid his paycheck for the whole season. Didn't contribute anything.
Yeah, I mean, we voted for
the only answer you can give.
Huh?
We paid £5 million alone, this lad, and he played 15 minutes. That's what Helios just said. Anyone who didn't vote him, I'm shocked.
And what's he on? 120 grand a week? 40 grand a week, something like that.
He's a proper flop. What was the point in him? It was that screams that the board just done that to shut the fans up. Klopp didn't want him because even when we were proper injury prone our midfield, he didn't get a game. Absolutely no point in him. And then he done a big goodbye post, and it was just like, well, there's no point. Just go quietly. Mad. He's right. He's robbed the living since Barca. Done nothing at Juventus. Done nothing at us. He'll go somewhere else now on crazy money as a free agent and do nothing there as well. Mad.
Anish, this signing pisses me off. Clearly done just to shut up the fans. It's actually insulting to the fan base.
It's true. What was the point in it? It did shut us up though, didn't it, for a few weeks? Because we bought, loaned in a midfielder. It did shut.
What boy said. He came for the vibes.
Pretty much. And he probably could have left if we would have. Imagine if we would have went and won the Premier League or the Champions League or something. He would have left with a medal, with nothing. Man.
Well, let's stick with you, Matty. Let's talk about your biggest LFC surprise. Obviously, not just our performance. Our performance level was quite surprising. But let's talk about it from a player's perspective. Who's been your biggest surprise of the season?
My biggest surprise this season, I wouldn't say it's a surprise for me, but a surprise for other fans, I'd say, is Curtis Jones. Genuinely, because everyone doubted him all the time. And Steven Gerrard done a fantastic interview with the Anfield Wrap and spoke about Curtis Jones. And if Steven Gerrard's saying you can be whatever you want to be to Curtis Jones, he's gonna. It shows, to be honest. And people saying Bajcetic and that, he wasn't really a surprise, so to speak. It was a surprise how good he settled into the first team. But I'd say for me, the surprise is purely based on the fact that everyone doubted Jones. And when he was given his opportunity, he was our most consistent midfielder and pivotal in us getting European places this season in that midfield, to be fair to him. So I think he's a surprise in that aspect, because everyone writ him off. When he was playing, everyone was going, "Oh, Curtis Jones this, Curtis Jones that." Everyone shut up now. That CF comps on Twitter's been quiet for weeks. He was doing videos about how bad he was. No one's doing videos about how good he was. And I think that's a surprise, to be fair. Like, just how much he's turned it round.
Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me with Bajcetic is the fact that he was meant to be a defender and he came in to the team in midfield, which is a more complicated job.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be completely on a pivot as opposed to watching the game in front of you and defending. And that really, like, for someone to be able to take that step forward and step into the first team, that was a real surprise. But I do agree with you on Curtis Jones, and I voted for Curtis Jones as well. And he is the winner of Liverpool surprise player, because I think you could be on this platform. You know, we could be having any stream, Drew, anything up to the last 10 games of the season, and everyone would be saying loan, sell. Nobody's saying that anymore, are they?
No, they can't say that after his last 10 games. And that's, for me, why he was young player of the season. I think everything Maddie said. I always said that Curtis would have a squad playing role in this team, and that he had a future, and what he gives for the team is important moving forward. So that's why, for me, it wasn't a surprise. But Bajcetic, like you said, when he came in, or Maddie, was like that the fact that he had settled in so well, and he was our best midfielder for that entire stretch that he was in the team. That's why he was surprised me. But Curtis Jones, regardless, deserves the plaudits, because he definitely proved a lot of people wrong. A lot of people in the fan base and anyone in the league should be looking at him as a solid midfielder with, you know, now he's adding goals to it as well, which we knew he could do. Definitely turned up last 10 games and showed what he's capable of.
I think with Bajcetic as well, like, because the first time the majority of the fan base seen him was when he started, and he was unbelievable from day one. It wasn't a surprise because you didn't know what to expect. With Jones, everyone was doubting him before he even kicked the ball when he started 12 games ago. And since then, he's probably been one of the first names on the team sheet. Yeah, his last few performances haven't been unbelievable, but they're a lot better than what he was. So it just shows how high his standards have been for people to be saying recently he's been average, because that shows how good he was in the games before that. So fair play to him, he's turned it around, and I really couldn't be happier for him. He deserves it, and I think that Gerrard interview will help a lot of our fans realise how talented the lad is, because if Steven Gerrard's talking that highly about him, you know he's good. This is our greatest ever midfielder. Just listen to him. He knows what he's talking about.
I think one of the things for me that stands out, and we'll move on from Jones really quickly to the next category after this, is the change in formation, where Trent is now sort of right central and putting the ball over to the back post in middle areas, leads to a midfielder going further forward than Thiago would normally go, which is why he's arriving at the back post late and scoring goals. It's more a position suited for Curtis Jones than the left central midfielder in the 4-3-3, which is more a dictating playmaker type role. It allows him to sort of take a few more risks and drift out wide left a little bit more and stuff. And it seems to be suiting him for me. I think that's the change in formations had a really positive impact on the game that Curtis Jones naturally plays, which is great to see for me. But let's move on to best Liverpool goal. Now, again, put your best Liverpool goal in the comments. Let us know what you think your best Liverpool goal is. What is goal of the season for you? There's actually a split vote for contributors on this. But Drew, for you, what goal of the season did you go for?
I voted Mo Salah's goal versus Manchester City in that first game. I think the assist from Alisson, the way he turned Cancelo, had the time to drive in on Ederson and still slotted it away. Like everything about that goal at that point in the season was just a brilliant goal. But unfortunately, it didn't kickstart us to anything more. But I think as far as team goals and individual goals in the season, that one gets a bit of both. And yeah, for me, it's Mo Salah.
So we've got Salah City. I do like the Salah one against City. Ended Cancelo's career, which is a really good point. And that one doesn't make it. It wins in the chat, but for us, the two winners are the Gakpo one, which obviously is in the chat, and the Diaz one, which is also in the chat as well. So I think we're talking about 3 goals here that have done it. Now, I think some of the other ones are... Diaz one was cracking, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I went for. It's special. He sat down like 7 players to score that goal. That's what goes under the radar a bit. He took it past like 7 players and put 2 of them on their ass before killing it in top bin. And Diaz had never scored a goal like that for us. It was just, the ground was unbelievable. I think that was part of the reason why I voted for that, just because of the reaction of the crowd for that goal. It was just like, oh my God, you'd witnessed one of the best goals you'd see. Really. Do you know what it reminded me of as well? Suarez, where he just players, like, unbelievable.
Some of the other ones that were mentioned, Firmino's last against United in the 7-0, just because it was so brilliant. That was one that was in there.
It deserves a shout. Yeah, Elliott versus Wolves.
Jota's against Spurs for the win against, to really reinforce Richarlison's misery. That's in there. Trent's free kick goal was in there. So there's some big names up there. But yeah, I mean, Gakpo's finishing against United was ice cold. It was beautiful, that finish. So I think these two are definitely the 2 best. And I can't really pick them apart because they're so different goals, aren't they, Matty? It's like trying to say, well, what do you want? Do you want a skillful finish or do you want an absolute banger?
Yeah, the Gakpo goal, take no credit away from it, though. For me, Diaz was the best one this season. Gakpo, it was even funnier because United was so adamant he was going there, and then he just turned up and absolutely tortured them, and it was just unbelievable. But that second goal, that was when you just knew. Like, that game for me was when you just knew we got him for 35 million. Are you having a laugh? That was like the emotion when because he was just unbelievable, and that was when I think he announced himself to many Liverpool fans that game.
The fact that they then sound Weghorst, that's their solution to Gakpo. That's where you know. Now, this may be a controversial one, and we may struggle to come up with an answer. Best Liverpool game of the season. There's only one, really, isn't there, Drew? Is there only one for you?
Yeah, that's
9-0.
No, that was a big game, but Man U, the demolishing of Man U, their biggest loss in Premier League history. That's clearly ahead of everything else for best game of the season for Liverpool. There's nothing to pick apart from that performance. Nunez also showed up on that day. Salah absolutely skinned Martinez on defense for that Cody Gakpo 3rd goal. Bobby came on, got his goal. Like, everything about that game from start to finish was just incredible. And the second half was an absolute blitz that I couldn't believe when I was watching it.
I mean, obviously it's the 7-0, but I think that's probably the second best one.
Yeah, what a game that was! What a game! It was unbelievable, like proper unbelievable. Like, we was in the cop, and it was just the emotions when Richarlison scored. Because when he came on, everyone was like, he hasn't scored all season. He is going to score against Liverpool. You just know it. And for him to get a goal and get a yellow card was silly odds, by the way. Everyone should have backed that, because he scored to the top off. So we made me money. I was happy, but it was just more the fact that Jota goal, it was so soon after, and the cop was bouncing. So that's a close contender for me. But that United 7-0. I've never seen nothing like it. I've grew up with United in the past few years. Yeah, we've been a dominant side, but my whole childhood, they just battered us and won everything, and they had Fergie, and it was just horrible. So to beat them 7-0, it just meant so much, and I love it.
They were also like on the top of their game too. It's not like we played a weak side or anything. They had won 16 in a row unbeaten or something like that.
Oh, they went in way overconfident, didn't they? They thought they were going to nail it, Drew. They were like, yeah, we've got this. You guys have been terrible. And then just to show up in that fashion, I think, was surprising everyone. And how they gave up. Just perfect. Now we're going to move away from Liverpool now, and we're going to do the same round again, but we're actually going to talk about the rest of the Premier League. So, Rio Ferdinand before the match. Yes.
Anything to do with the Manx. It's just, what a day. What a night out that was as well.
Yeah, let's get rid of Helio's comment there. We've forgotten that, Helio. We've moved on. Overall, then, Premier League player of the season. Matty, for you, who's been the best player so far this season?
It can only be Haaland, as much as it pains me to say it. He's a freak. I put a bet on with my mate when he signed and Nunes signed that Nunes had scored more goals than him in the Premier League this year, just being bitter. So that was 50 quid down the drain. But in all fairness, Haaland's a freak. He's an absolute freak. He is unbelievable, but I somewhat feel like he might be a bit like Michael Owen, Do you know who's unbelievable as a kid? And then because he played so much football so young and he's had a lot of injuries, fair enough, not many at City, but he had plenty at Dortmund and Leipzig and stuff, or Salzburg even, sorry. And he's just a freak, and his goal record shows that he's probably going to win them the Champions League next weekend, which will kill me, being in Turkey with them all. But yeah, it can only be him. There's been some good signings this year, but he just stands out at the top of everyone. So his goals are. He's a joke.
This isn't signing. This is player. So the best player. I mean, he'll probably win signing as well.
He's definitely player, I think, as well. He's
he won Premier League player. He makes a really good point. Matty does, Drew, that, maybe he might Michael Owen out, he might be starting young, but when you're, 6'5" and massive, you could turn into a Jan Kola, just big powerhouse forward, can't you? He's got other attributes so that he can pivot his game into something else in future, like Lewandowski, and go longer. Definitely the best player of the season for you.
Yeah, 100%. And he didn't the first half of the season too. Pep was still trying to fit him into the team. There was those games where he didn't touch the ball, or would touch it 3 or 4 times in a half, and then one of those would be goals. But he finally started to interplay with the Man City team towards the end of the season. The fact that he's absolutely shattered most records. What was it? The hat trick record that he has, where the next one was in 8 games, he had 4 hat tricks or something like that. And the next one who had that was Fowler with 80 games that it took. And then Pep wasn't even playing him at the end of the season, didn't play him. He could have easily reached 40 goals in the season, but I think he only played 35 games. So absolute freak, monster, and people who were doubting him when he came in, he absolutely silenced them.
The thing with
I'm going to call out one of our contributors here for an outrageous suggestion that the player of the year is Harry Kane.
Who done that?
Was that Jay?
JK.
Yeah, Jay.
Yeah, he's usually bang on as well. Maybe he's thought Haaland signed the season. I reckon that might have been his thinking. I don't reckon he's done it he can't have put Kane above Haaland. He's not that silly. He's not.
Odegaard, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, as much as I hate the ratty guy, is but Harry Kane. He's not here to defend himself, but I'm calling it out so that you all know next time JK's on stream, ask him to justify why Harry Kane is the best player in the Premier League this season. When Spurs finished, whatever they finished.
He'll be dangerous if he goes.
I'll go to bat for Jay. I mean, he's wrong, but
I'm going to bat for him. He's wrong.
But he scored 30 goals and a terrible Spurs side scored against almost every single team in the league. He had an amazing season, but doesn't mean he was anywhere near the player of the year.
Amazing season with a usual Spurs level of trophies.
Individual.
Yeah.
Individual.
He doesn't even win the Golden Boot anymore. It's either Haaland or Salah.
The difference between Kane and Haaland is, right, Tottenham play around Kane. City actually play worse with Haaland, to be fair, and he still scored that many goals. They don't play the football we know City for with him playing. They play more like City when Alvarez is starting. But Haaland's still got a return like that and is arguably going to win them the treble. That's his season.
Now we're going to move on to Premier League Young Player of the Season. Now, this is a bit of a controversial one because who classifies as a young player and who classifies as a senior pro? But I think it's anyone under the age of 23 formally classifies as a young player. Now, I went for emerging young player through, so I voted for Evan Ferguson because I think he's going to be outrageous. But a lot of people voted for some bigger names and stuff like that. Drew, who did you go for?
I voted for Haaland again just because he classifies in that bracket. If I was being, if you didn't choose him, then I would say Saka, but he kind of crumbled towards the end. So maybe Odegaard because he qualifies for it as well. But I voted for Haaland, but if we can't choose him, I'd say Saka or Odegaard.
And you have nailed the split vote between us.
Interesting. I went Jacob Ramsey.
I know. And the other name, is Moises Caicedo. So one person voted for Caicedo.
See, I think Haaland got young player and player of the year in the Premier, and I just don't agree with it because he's got player of the year. Why does he need to have young player as well? Saka was unbelievable, to be fair, but Jacob Ramsey for me from when Emery come in, he was unbelievably good. Unbelievably good.
Saka on 300k a week now, Matty.
Is it?
Salah level. That's his new contract.
Wow.
Was he that good?
No. That's like double Trent. Is he better than? I know it's in a different position. Okay, it's like I've seen reports Luis Diaz is on 50k, so that's what 6 times more than Diaz. Is he that much better than Luis Diaz? Is he? Yeah.
Also, the other players coming in, like what's Martinelli going to say? What's Odegaard going to say? Saliba, they're going to be knocking on the door. Versus us with Salah, I think everyone's like, well, it's Salah, like he's the one player.
See, this is the thing. I'm with Charlie. I think if you're a nominee for Player of the Season, you shouldn't be in Young Player of the Season. I think Young Player of the Season should be for emerging players. It's like I don't like when people go to the under-21s World Cups when they're a senior pro. It's like if you're a senior pro, you've got your first team cap. You shouldn't go back down to the under-21s really. But technically, he qualifies.
I can't believe he's on 300 grand a week. I'm wow.
Arsenal are trying to tie him up, aren't they?
Yeah, but then where does he go from there, right? In another 3, he's not even nowhere near his peak. So in another 3-4 years, they're going to walk. When his contract runs out, how long does this deal for?
I don't know.
When it runs out, he's going to go, I want to pay your ass. Give me 400. It just never ends. It's ridiculous. But then it worries me because people like Trent and that are out of England with him. Why can't Trent go knock on Liverpool's door and go, I'm more important to you than Saka is to Arsenal. I want 300 grand a week. And then what do we do?
But you see, I think the risk here is now he's on 300 grand a week. He don't try as hard.
Look at Salah.
I've done it.
I mean, he banged him in this year, but he wasn't the Salah we know and love, I don't think.
But that's Salah's last big contract. Now he might think he's made it. And do your classic Aubameyang, Özil. I mean, Arsenal have history with this, don't they? Players who get this big contract and then just drop it.
Yeah, Aubameyang got a massive deal and was awful. But then Charlie's comment there, Saka wants the release clause, but it was 6 years. It's interesting because he clearly sees himself somewhere else at the end of his deal.
Probably City. If he's wanting 300 grand a week, then he's going to want 500 grand a week, and that's probably going to be City, or I'd say United if they can turn it around. But they're £1 billion in debt. So,
do you know where he'd suit genuinely and do well? Real Madrid. And all the issues they're having with like Vinny Jr. and that. I mean, I know it's another black player going to play there, and the fans are horrible over there. But if they got rid of Vinny Jr., there's a replacement. I know it's on the other side, but easily switch people like Rodrigo in that round. He'll fit him in. He'd do very well in Real Madrid. With Jude Bellingham and that behind him, mustard.
Let's talk about manager of the season. And again, please put it in the chat. And if you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. We do videos for you. This is a fan channel for fans. But let's talk about manager of the season, Drew. Who did you choose as manager of the season?
I voted for Eddie Howe. I think just what he was able to do with the team. I know he had the resources to do it, but I think everyone's expectation of Newcastle was at best top 6 before the season started. I think to be able to get the players to up to that level at this point, and then to keep them there, especially with the run-in towards the end of the season. The fact that we were chasing Newcastle and United and they held it together to secure top 4, for me, he was manager of the season. I know there's plenty of other brilliant shouts and worthy contenders for that title, but that's why I chose Eddie Howe.
I'm very intrigued to see the answer to this. I went with Emery myself. Sure, exactly.
Also Emery.
Because they were really bad under Stevie G, really bad. And he's got them, it's only the Conference League, but they've climbed up the table and put European football back in a massive club. And I think Emery will go under the radar on many votes this season, writers, players, and all stuff like that. But for me, yeah, definitely. And that's why I'm very intrigued to see. I think it'll probably be Eddie Howe. What Drew said, he's done an unbelievable job, and I think he'll be victim of his own success next season, Eddie Howe. But Emery's been very good.
So there's 4 managers that have had votes. De Zerbi, Eddie Howe, Pep Guardiola, and Unai Emery. The winner, Eddie Howe. And it's hard to disagree, isn't it? It's not like they've just thrown, a infinite amount of money at this. He's built it the right way. They played football the right way. They've built it up, and they've done it well in terms of qualification for Champions League. And it's really good to see when fans get behind a team and everything's bouncing in a positive direction, how well everything seems to click together. Even Callum Wilson was scoring goals, Mike.
Yeah, I do think they probably need about 8 or 9 players, no exaggeration, to maintain this next year with the demand of the Champions League. And obviously Poch's at Chelsea now, Liverpool have got to buy players. So I think next season you maybe might see Newcastle slip out the top 4, and that's what I mean by Eddie Howe being victim of his own success. But this season he's just built a really good, solid team. And I think that's what's good about them. They're just a very good team. They're not full of individuals. No one believes they're bigger than the club. And remember when Newcastle only 2 years ago were relying on St. Maximin? They can play games without them now. They are a very, very good team, but they do need a lot of improvements to maintain the demand of Champions League playing every 3 days. And with the hopefully resurgence of like Liverpool and Chelsea, even Tottenham, you know what I mean? They're all going to spend this year. So I think they'll maybe be a bit exposed next year, but this year deserves it. It does deserve it.
Well, sticking with the theme, let's talk about the biggest overachievers. And Matty, I'll give you some of the names. You can tell me which one you went for. Newcastle, Brighton, Bournemouth, Arsenal, and Brentford. Don't know who
I went for Newcastle, I think, if I remember correctly, purely because I do think it was a freak season. I don't think you'll see a season like it again. But nobody expected them to get 4th the year after they got bought by the Saudis. Nobody. It was probably, I don't even think the Saudis did. I think it's come too soon for them, to be fair. And they might end up a bit like City, when they bought like Robinho and that. They'll go and buy names rather than players, I think, now. But definitely Newcastle's the biggest overachievers. They finished 3rd in the Premier League. That consisted of Liverpool, who nearly won everything last season. Nobody expected Newcastle to even be in the European places, never mind third.
But Drew, what about Arsenal? Nobody expected Arsenal to be fighting for the Premier League.
But they battled it.
Yes, they definitely bottled it. But they definitely overachieved.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day when you bottle it. Like, you think the season that we had where, with Suarez at the end of, did we overachieve that season? Yeah, sure, but we didn't win. So at the end of the day, yeah, you're not going to remember it like in the large scale of things. You're just going to remember it as the season that Arsenal bottled it. Whereas Newcastle, you're going to remember that season as the season that they finished top 4 for the first time since, the Alan Shearer days. That's the difference.
Well, everyone's initial reaction was right. Biggest overachiever voted for by us is Newcastle, and there's no great surprise.
Look at them. There's not even a world-class player in the side. Bruno Guimaraes, maybe. There's no one else who's world-class, is there? And they got third in the league. That shows how much they've overachieved. Callum Wilson up front for crying out loud.
It just goes to show, though, when it all comes together, like this is what West Ham had at the start, when they came back from COVID. The fans and the players were all fighting in the same direction. And when everyone's going the same way, like in the stadium's bouncing and everything like that, it makes such a big difference that average players can achieve great things. I think Sven Botman could be.
Oh, that winds me, James, because we were meant to buy him and we got Kabak in on loan instead. And look how good he is. It proper aggravates me because we were so close to signing him and we didn't go back in for him because we loaned Kabak. We could have had him.
Kabak, though. Let's talk about the biggest underachievers. There's 3 names in this fold. Chelsea, Leicester, and us. 3 votes for us.
I think that's cruel. Don't think But honestly, I mean, I know if you go back on the pre-season predictions, we said Liverpool to finish the league champions, and I said Liverpool to win the lot, but I'm a bitter Liverpool fan. So I genuinely believe we'll win the lot next year as well. But in terms of underachieving, look at the state of our squad. What do people expect this season? Genuinely, do people expect us to maintain a title charge this season? Last season, we overachieved. There's no way we underachieved this season. Going into a season relying on a 37-year-old James Milner, who I still believe should have stayed more as like a coach role, but like Henderson and stuff not playing well, all the injuries. Do you honestly believe we underachieved? Because we didn't really. What did anyone expect? I think we overachieved because if you asked us in a few months ago, would we take Europa League and finishing behind United by just a couple of points, we would have all bit your hand off for it. No way we underachieved this season. We didn't expect to do nothing, though, did we? Really? Did you expect Liverpool seriously to win something this year? Genuinely, with the squad we had?
I expected us to be in the top 4. I think not getting in the top 4 is an underachievement.
No, but we never got in the top 4 down to injuries, to be fair. We were riddled.
Well, we didn't get in the top 4 because we didn't get enough points and we didn't play well enough.
Because we were relying on players we shouldn't be relying
on. Every team relies on players, Matty.
I don't think we underachieved, to be fair. I think we've had a poor season. By our standards we set, yes, we've underachieved, but we're not the biggest underachievers in the league. You're talking about the Leicester side that won the league a few years ago, won the FA Cup a few years ago, and they've went down. They're the second side, or maybe the first side to ever do that. That's a massive underachievement from Leicester. Liverpool aren't the biggest underachievers in the league by a long stretch. I agree we've underachieved by not getting top 4, but biggest underachievers in the league, I think that's cruel to the lads on the pitch.
Okay. So you're going Leicester or Chelsea?
Yeah, Leicester.
And the vote is Chelsea.
Fair. Spent 700 mil.
I was going to say a team that spends £750 million and goes backwards is not that. I mean, and then brings Frank Lampard back. I mean, you're just asking for trouble, aren't you, Drew?
Yeah, that was my pick for underachievers of the season. Like how many players they bought, how expensive they were. The mismanagement from the top level of that club was absolutely atrocious. they were buying players that other clubs wanted so that those other clubs wouldn't get them. There was no coherent game plan for how they wanted to approach this season. And I think, it's been quoted before, but it just seemed like a kid playing FIFA with that club. And with how much, with where they were, what is that? They won the Club World Cup last year? What is that?
Yeah.
The Super Cup?
Club World Cup.
But like with the players that they had, how much money they spent, firing they fired Tuchel in the beginning, and then just progressively got worse. Graham Potter, you went from Tuchel to Graham Potter to Frank Lampard. Where that club finished from where they started was absolutely abysmal, because I put them in the top 4. I think we did in the stream yesterday too. The predictions were that they'd make top 4, and if that's at least the bare minimum of achievement for Chelsea at the start of the season, where they finished is the absolute worst out of the 3 we've mentioned.
I would say if you spend,
if they took Tuchel's points out, wouldn't they have went down?
Yeah,
sure, that's what kept them up in the end. Mad.
But if you spend £750 million, you should be fighting for the title.
Yeah, you should be winning it. That's more than City. City haven't spent 700 million in 1 year. I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not agreeing with what City do, because they're just as bad. But City have built gradually, to be fair, and they've got a very good squad. But Chelsea just went and bought anyone was linked to be fair. And I reckon out of all the ones, like Mudryk, I think Arsenal dodged a bullet. Enzo Fernandez is fantastic, to be fair to him. But
I feel for the guy.
Yeah, he's a very good player, but Sterling, flop.
Cucurella,
yeah, awful. And then they're going to go and sell Kovacic to City, who's been the best player all season. It's mad.
And they didn't buy a striker either. Like the position they were calling out for, they got Aubameyang and João Felix.
They just loaned their £100 million striker out instead. It's backwards. Makes no sense.
Yeah, it jokes. Now, this one, again, it seems a little bit obvious, and I'm not going to waste any time sort of beating around. Obviously, best signing, Erling Haaland. But, Matty, for you, the other names in the mix, Sven Botman got a vote. Gakpo got a vote. Gabriel Jesus got a vote. Casemiro got a vote from Mr. Richie Slack. Again, naming and shaming, voting for a Man U player. Who do you think, if you remove the obvious winner, and he is the winner, and he's rightly so the winner, who's your number 2 for this?
Probably Cody Gakpo, purely for the influence he had on our side. When you think back how much we were struggling before he came in and added goals, added a different dimension to us, and helped with the charge up to the European places, to be fair. The position, just purely for the position we was in, and if not him, probably Botman. I think he's completely transformed the Newcastle defence. Jesus does me head in that you get talked about as revolutionising Arsenal and being a sign of the season, because didn't Bobby Firmino outscore him this year? Someone did.
Yeah. And I think Zinchenko has done more for that Arsenal team than...
Yeah.
I'd have voted Zinchenko for the Arsenal signing.
Definitely. He was good sign, to be fair. I forgot that was this year. Odegaard was this year as well, which I only learned the other day. Yeah, because someone said Odegaard, and apparently he was on loan last year and signed this year. That's what they said in the chat. So I was a bit surprised. I thought, well, he's the captain, so they've given captain straight away. But Odegaard was officially signed this year, apparently. So probably him as best signing, to be fair.
Yeah. If he signed this year, then Odegaard's number 2 behind Haaland as the best signing. What about for you, Drew?
Was Nick Pope bought this year, or was it last year?
I think that was this year as well. That's a good shout.
Yeah, because that would be my that'd be my only other shout from the names that you mentioned.
Yeah,
so now let's go to Premier League flop signing of the season. And I'm not going to come to you first, Mike, because I know your answer before you even said it.
I didn't vote, to be fair, but then I thought that he signed this year, and I remembered, why didn't vote him. But I didn't put him down, to be fair.
Drew, for you, who's your flop of the year? And please put it in the chat. Flop signing of the season.
This is who I predicted, and that's why I stuck with it. But Calvin Phillips, I did not see why City bought him. Didn't make sense. Played a handful of minutes at the end of the day. He cost 65 million as well. Like, it was an absolute waste of money. Barely played, and then just sat on the bench all year collecting checks. For me, that's flop of the season.
So a couple have said Arthur in the chat. He's not on our list. And I think it's because people spent more money on other players.
Yeah.
A lot of money on a lot of other players. So João Felix, also not on the list.
He was a lot of money for a loan, though, weren't he? Or 20 mil to loan him, Felix. He paid a lot of money for loan.
So let me give you some on the list, obviously. Weghorst is a good shout, but he's not on the list. But we've got Anthony. He's got a good few votes. Cucurella. Morpay, Mudryk, and Richarlison as some of the votes. Now, one person in LFC Transfer Room has voted for Darwin Núñez as flop of the season.
Come on, that's harsh.
Who did that?
I
now,
voted.
my gut thinks it's Anthony, and he might tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think it was Anthony because he don't rate him. He thinks he was over.
No, I think it's harsh. First season of every club he's been at, he's been bad then performed. But I done Phillips myself for the same reasons as Drew, and a little bit more closer to heart because gutted to see Leeds go down because we miss his family are Leeds fans. And I think if they kept Calvin Phillips, they might have stayed up this season. And instead, he's left his boyhood club, who are now relegated, to go and sit on the bench and collect a few medals. Or from him, because there's no way he thought he was getting in that side ahead of Rodri. Not a chance. So for me, it's Calvin Phillips. But the actual flop, when I remembered it was him. Wow.
So unsurprisingly, Aubameyang's a good show actually, but
Basuma as well. He went to Spurs, didn't he?
An entire season, no goal.
They've had a bad one, haven't they?
One goal. And he celebrated like he'd won the lottery, only to have it taken away from him.
I hate him. Him and Bernardo Silva, I've never hated a footballer more, I swear. And he's just a creep, innit? He's got Neymar tattooed onto him. He plays with him. He's a proper weirdo. But Tottenham had a bad window. I forgot about Basuma until Anisha's just said Basuma flop hard. They bought very high-profile signings, really. I mean, Richarlison was questionable by everyone when they spent the money on him, but players like Basuma and that we thought had just bed in well, and they've all flopped for Spurs. It's just all went wrong. But Richarlison, that's why that Spurs game will probably be one of the best games this season, apart from the United game, because he came on and scored and jumped in the crowd with his top off, going like this to all the fans. It's like no one's ever learned. If you rile Anfield up, Liverpool will win. It happened to Arteta. It's happened to Richarlison and whoever many else you want to list. But if you piss Anfield off, Liverpool play better. And he didn't learn. Stupid. See you next Tuesday.
So now we're going to talk about the Premier League surprise of the season. before we start talking about the pigeon, because I'm not talking about that. So, biggest surprise of the season. I mean, we've had a few suggestions to this, which is
give me them because I forgot.
Liverpool underperforming, Mitoma being a surprise of the season, Newcastle getting in the top 4, Trent in the 6th pivot, 115 allegations brought against City.
Whoever done that is a legend. It is
Almer on form after Jack Grealish obviously called him out in the last parade. None of these are the winner. I'm just Leicester City, Chelsea, Ivan Toney ban.
I can't remember what I put.
So they're some of the surprises of the season, but Anisha's put Arsenal or Newcastle. The biggest surprise is Brighton getting into the Europa.
What's with the duck?
I have no idea. I blame Anthony for this image.
So it's seagulls? Supposed to be seagulls?
I thought it was something to do with Ukraine then. I don't have a clue what it's for. I'm so cool. He's definitely done it on purpose. I don't get it.
I have no. I can't give you an answer to that. That's their original badge.
Oh my god, that's even worse. That was a badge.
Jesus.
Wow. Why didn't he just put the normal badge on me?
It's like kindergarten drawings.
Bad that. But yeah, to be fair, they were the biggest surprise. But that's all down to their manager, De Zerbi. Wow. It's only Brighton, and then we can go and get some mad manager from Ukraine, which is undergoing an invasion. Go and pluck the best manager out of there and bring them to England and turn the side around after losing who they believe probably they never would have sacked in Graham Potter. So he's revolutionised that side, to be fair. And they probably, it's mad because they probably aren't even bothered that they're going to lose Casado and McAllister, maybe Matoma probably. They'll get picked apart this year, Brighton, and they won't care because they've got all the replacements. They're like Dortmund. They're the British Dortmund, and they are very, very good.
Well, hopefully they turn into, our next South Coast company that we just take a player from every year.
I'd take that. Tony Bloom's doing good things down there. Or Paul Bloom.
Okay, so we've got last one. Goal of the season. Do you remember what you went for, Drew?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember what I went for, but honestly, nothing really sprung to mind for me when I did it. I looked at some of the top ones, and it was only recently for me. I think it was the Gundogan one I went for against Everton. That little touch off the thigh and his flick over the shoulder. I just thought as far as technique and skill for me, but I'm not ardent to that one. If somebody says something else, that that's fine. But for me, that was the one in recent memory that I was like, wow, that was a very skillful goal, and I like skillful goals, so that's why I chose it.
What did you go for, Matty?
I think I went for Decore, last game of the season, purely because everyone wants Everton to go down. But when it came to Everton or Leicester, I'll be honest, as a bitter Liverpool fan, I wanted Leicester to go down purely for how they disrespect the 97 fans. So when he scored that, what it meant to friends, family who were Blues, seeing the tears of emotion and that. I mean, Everton fans, it's funny because their happiness is from surviving in the Premier League, and we get happiness from winning the absolute fucking lot. So that's just the difference in this city. But for that goal to keep your football club up, that is a special, special finish. And the technique involved in it, the power, the swerve on it. That if anyone else scored that in the league, people would be talking about it being goal of the season, but because it was in a relegation battle, it won't be. And for me, it was fantastic, and that's coming from a bit of red. Fair play to Decore. That was a fantastic finish, and to keep Everton up. Imagine being in that ground. People are coming out saying it's the loudest that ground's ever been, which is probably a lie. But imagine being in that ground. Imagine being an Everton fan, and that's the goal that saves you. It's got to be goal of the season, just for what was riding on it.
Sorry, I was imagining being an Everton fan for a second.
But just what was riding on it, to be fair, obviously there's been some fantastic finishes. Gundogan's was unbelievable. The technique in that was fantastic, and he was probably one of the most underrated players in the league scene in recent years. But we knew they were going to win the league, to be fair. Every Liverpool fan knew that. We spoke about it for weeks. Drew spoke about it since match week 2 that Arsenal are going to bottle it. So we expect this as City. No one expected that to keep Everton up. It was reminded me of Company, Joe, when we lost the league, when we won the Champions League in that year. It reminded me of that for Everton, and for that reason, for me, that had to be goal of the season.
Well, the two finals were the one that won official match of the day, goal of the season, which was Ensico versus City, and the Gundogan one. They were the two that were voted for on ours. I went for team goal Brighton, where Matoma puts it in the bottom corner. It goes from left to right to left, and Matoma scores it. That was I just thought that was a great team goal about fluid movement. But it's hard to disagree with either of these two. They were both great technical goals. And yeah.
Your eye, hasn't it? 'Cause it's just caught my eye.
Yeah, so Charlie, who's been tweeting out as we've been going on the award ceremony, is just saying it off topic. Stevie G's favourite to become the Leeds manager.
That's a good move. That is a very, very, very good move for Steven Gerrard. That's where he shows we can make or break it. It's in a massive club, sleeping giant, like what Rangers was. Got a good base of players. He'll bring, no doubt, some of Liverpool's academy, some of Aston Villa academy players he's seen throughout his tenure. Ryan Kemp, for example, is a free agent who we had at Rangers. Very, very good. I think he'd do well in the Championship. Even players like who left from Liverpool, I think, could do well in the Championship. Like there's one of our kids we've released. I think he'd do well there. Definitely. That's a good shout.
But this is an important move for Stevie, isn't it, Matty? Because when the way Emery's come in and changed Villa and made such a massive impact, it kind of it's kind of created some doubts about his ability to do it post Rangers. So his next move's got to be a positive step forward, and it's fine that it's the Championship, because obviously Lampard went straight back into the Premier League, and look what he's done to his reputation. He's pretty much torch fired it.
I think that's why we haven't seen Gerrard go anywhere yet, because Lampard left Everton, and that Chelsea job, to take that, given the morale the squad was in, he was already in Marbella in the Reds. To take that just damaged his reputation further, because they won nothing, like no games. He made them worse going in. So it's important for Gerrard, and going to the Championship, he's away from the main spotlight. And I think what's important for him is it's closer to home as well. So he has his family life back, which he was missing at Rangers. So it seems like a good move. That Championship looks like a very, very tough league this year, though. So it could be detrimental to him, because there's a lot of big sides. And you look at the Premier League and you think, bloody hell, this is the best 20 teams in England. And then you look in the Championship and the sides there that you'd expect to be in the Prem, and they're just not.
What about you, Drew? Gerrard to Leeds?
Yeah, smart move from him. Still in the mix in England. There will still be attention on it, and I think there was some rumors he'd go for a foreign job again. But I think if he wants to get back to coaching in the Prem, the Championship and coming up from that level is the best next approach. I agree with everything Matty said about Lampard, and for me too, it's Gerrard's still a young coach. This is only his third job as a coach now? It was Rangers, then Villa, and this. So I think you take the flip side, where Lampard almost took jobs that he didn't really earn, so to speak, like the Chelsea job at first, or was it Derby, and then he didn't get him promoted. Then he got the Chelsea job, which he didn't deserve. That kind of stuff, it doesn't really make sense for a progression of a managerial career. Whereas Gerrard, his moves made sense. Rangers first, then he built that club up, one undefeated season, then he took the jump to Aston Villa. Maybe it was a bit too soon, but it's a learning experience for him still on his early days of his managerial career. So Leeds seems like the perfect next opportunity for him. And for Leeds too, that could be exactly what they need to convince players not to jump ship.
And there we go. We're going to finish on the new biggest shock of the season, Sam Allardyce, who is self-proclaimed as good as Klopp, as good as Pep. Leeds may be going for a different manager in Stephen G, which is it's flabbergasting considering how good Allardyce says he is. But this has been LFC Transfer Room. This has been our award ceremony. Thank you, everyone, for that's contributed. Thank you, everyone that's got involved and given us your answers to these before we've shared yours. Thank you very much to Anthony for this design, because it's been absolute banging design. If you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you on the next one. Take care.